Hello students, welcome to Interconnecting Physics. Today in this video, I will explain you about electric flux and Gauss theorem. So without wasting time, let's get started. For regular updates, you can follow me on given links. So first of all, before starting electric flux, let us start area vector because in order to know about electric flux, it's very necessarily important that we should have knowledge about area vector. So what is area vector? It is the vector of a plane surface whose magnitude is equal to the area of the plane surface. Means let us suppose we have area vector ds vector, then its magnitude will be the magnitude of the plane surface, magnitude of the area of the plane surface. So it is ds. And the direction is perpendicular to the plane of the surface. Direction is perpendicular to the plane of the surface and directed outward. So let us suppose we have a big surface S and we have taken a small surface ds, small area element ds. Now its area vector will be the magnitude of this area element, that is ds, and the direction of this area vector will be perpendicular to this area element. Let us suppose it is given by n cap, n unit vector. So it means area vector is always perpendicular to the surface, is always perpendicular to the surface. Suppose we have a circle. If you have to find its area vector, it means it is maybe directed along into the paper or above the paper. Maybe it is toward yourself or maybe inward the paper. Means it is always perpendicular to the surface, always perpendicular to the surface. Suppose we have a square, then its area vector will be perpendicular to it, means maybe toward yourself or maybe inward the paper. So it is about area vector. And what is electric flux now? Now see, electric flux through a surface is the total number of electric field lines passing through that surface, but passing normally through that surface, passing normally, passing perpendicularly, passing at 90 degree to the surface. Suppose we have a sheet and electric field lines, number of electric field lines are passing through the surface perpendicular to the surface. Only perpendicular electric field lines will make the electric flux. Please note here, perpendicular electric field lines means the electric field lines which are passing perpendicular through the surface make electric flux through that surface. Now let us elaborate it. Suppose we have some area, let us say S. An electric field E passing perpendicularly to this area, perpendicularly to this area. So electric flux is denoted by phi and it can be written as E vector dot S vector. E vector dot S vector. Always remember it is E vector dot S vector. It is dot product of electric field vector and area vector. Not area vector. Okay. Now you see here electric field lines are perpendicular to the area. Electric field lines are perpendicular to the area. And you know S vector means area vector which is also perpendicular to the area, because we have already studied area vector is always perpendicular to the surface. Area vector is along this direction. Electric field is along this direction, means E vector and S vector are in the same direction, So it means angle between E vector and S vector is 0 degree. So phi will be phi equal to E ds cos 0 degree, because you know when you open the dot product we open it as E ds cos theta, and theta here is 0 degree because direction of electric field vector is normal to the area and area vector is also normal to the area. Both are perpendicular to the area. It means the angle between electric field vector and area vector is 0 degree. Then E ds. Cos 0 is 1. So answer is E ds. Now if we take whole area S, so we take vector as S vector. So we write instead of ds phi equal to Es if we take area as S. So that's why we have taken phi equal to Es, because in this relation we have already supposed that the electric field and the area vector are in the same direction, that is electric field is also perpendicular to the surface and area vector is always perpendicular to the surface. So it means angle between E and S equal to 0, means both are in same direction and angle is 0 degree. So we write it as phi equal to E into S. Let us more elaborate it. Let us suppose we have a surface S and the electric field E vector makes an angle theta with the ds vector. Let us suppose small area element ds here. Now, you know area vector is always perpendicular to the surface. Area vector is always perpendicular to the surface, that is given by ds vector. Now this time E vector is making an angle theta with the ds vector. Always remember, angle theta is always between the electric field and area vector, not area. Electric field and the area vector. Now this time electric field is making an angle theta with the ds vector. Okay. Now resolve E vector into two components. So one is E cos theta and another will be E sin theta along this direction. But we always know that total number of electric field lines passing normally through that surface make electric flux. Now, which component will be normal to the surface? That is E cos theta, because ds vector is normal to the surface, is perpendicular to the surface. It means the component of E vector which is perpendicular to the surface or which is in the same direction to the area vector will compose electric flux. So now the component E cos theta which is perpendicular to the surface, or we can say which is along the area vector, will constitute electric flux. So we write electric flux as electric field. Which electric field? E cos theta, because only this will constitute the electric flux and this E sin theta will not constitute. This will constitute the electric flux because according to definition, total number of electric field lines passing normally, and the normal component of electric field is E cos theta which is along the area vector. So we write electric flux as electric field and area, that is ds. Okay. Now we can write small area, a small electric flux. We can write small electric flux because we have taken small area element. So we write as d phi. Okay. Now cos theta here, so we can write in the vector notation as E vector dot ds vector. So that's why it is here written as Es, because here already we have assumed that E and S are in same direction, but the main formula is E dot ds vector, that is dot product of electric field and area vector, dot product of electric field and area vector, that is E dot ds, E dot ds, E vector dot ds vector. Now this is the small electric flux. Now, if we want to calculate electric flux through whole surface, through entire surface, we will integrate d phi. We will integrate d phi over S, over the surface. So, we write it as electric flux is the integration of E vector dot ds vector. So, another definition of electric flux is the total electric flux through a surface in an electric field is the surface integral of the electric field over that surface. Surface integration of the electric field over that surface. Now, we always know scalar product of two vectors. Scalar product of two vectors is always a scalar. So, it means flux is a scalar quantity because it is the scalar product. It is the dot product of two vectors. So, it is a scalar quantity. Now, as a unit of electric flux, you know, in simple definition, we can write phi equal to E into S. And what is E? E is the force experienced by unit test charge, that is force divided by charge, and S is area. So SI unit of force is Newton, SI unit of charge is Coulomb, and SI unit of area is meter square. The units will be Newton, Coulomb inverse, meter square, or we can write Newton, meter square, Coulomb inverse. Now these units are also written as Newton meter, Coulomb inverse. Now Newton meter, what is Newton meter? You know, work done. Work done is force into distance, and force Newton, S is meter, so Newton meter can be written as joule meter Coulomb inverse. Means Newton meter square Coulomb inverse or joule meter Coulomb inverse, both are the units of electric flux. Now dimension formula of electric flux is can be calculated. I told you, never cram the dimension formula. Always remember the relevant formula, and then calculate the dimension formula that from that relation. Now what is the dimension formula for force? It is mLT minus 2. What is the dimension formula for Q? That is A into T. What is the dimension formula for area? That is L2. Now multiply all these, you will get the dimension formula for electric flux, that is M L3 L2 L1 L3 T plus 1 here, and in numerator it becomes minus 1 and T minus 3 and A minus 1. Now special cases for electric flux, very important for NEET or JEE. Now if theta equal to 0 degree, we write it as E ds because cos 0 is 1. So now E can be taken outside. If E is uniform, can be taken outside from the integration, and if the area of the surface is S, then we can write total area of is S, so ES. It means electric flux through a surface is maximum if the electric field is along area vector. If electric field is along area vector, that is perpendicular to the surface. You see, area vector is always perpendicular to the surface, and electric field is here perpendicular to the surface. It means ds vector and E vector both are in same direction. So in this case, the electric flux will be maximum. Now you see, if theta is 90 degree, then electric flux will be theta is 90 degree. What is theta? Theta is the angle between electric field and area vector. So it means area vector is in this direction and electric field is perpendicular to it. So theta is 90 degree and cos 90 is 0. So electric flux will be 0 if E vector is perpendicular to the ds vector. Now if theta is 180 degree, the electric flux will be negative. Why? Because suppose area vector is along this direction, perpendicular to the surface always, and electric field is along this direction. So angle is 180 degree, and in this case electric flux is negative. Now electric flux is a scalar quantity, and electric flux through a closed surface. You know, when we talk about closed surface, it means we are talking about three-dimension surface. Let us suppose we have a cube. Okay, we have a cube. Cube is 3-dimension and it is closed surface. And let us say electric flux through this surface will be integration, closed integration. We put ring on this integration, closed integration over the surface, and E vector dot dx vector will become the electric flux through a closed surface. Now come to the Gauss theorem. It is very important and very easy. Now let's see. It was given by John Carl Friedrich Gauss, a German scientist. He gave a relation between electric flux through a closed surface and the charge enclosed by the surface. So let us discuss Gauss law. You see, we already studied electric flux through a closed surface is closed integration of E dot ds. And according to Gauss law, the electric flux is simply equal to charge divided by epsilon naught. Means we need not to calculate electric field, we need not to calculate area vector, we just calculate it as charge divided by epsilon naught. Means simplest form of calculating electric flux. Simplest form of calculating electric flux is given by Gauss theorem. He only said that electric flux is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times the charge enclosed by the closed surface. If suppose we have a cube and it is a closed surface, if charge q is present inside the closed surface, then what Gauss law said? Gauss law said flux through this closed surface is equal to 1 over epsilon naught times the charge enclosed by the surface. Means we don't bother about electric field, we don't bother about area vector. We just take charge and divide it by epsilon naught and we will calculate the electric flux. So it is the simplest form of calculating the electric flux. Only charge should be present in the closed surface. And then only then the electric flux will be Q over epsilon naught. So it states that total electric flux through any closed surface S in free space is equal to 1 over epsilon naught times the electric charge enclosed by the surface. What is epsilon naught? Epsilon naught is the absolute permittivity of the free space. Let us prove Gauss theorem. So let us consider we have isolated charge plus Q at O. So let us assume there is a surface in the form of sphere around it. Let us assume in Gauss theorem, this is very important point, that is, let us assume a sphere is surrounded by this charge, and this sphere is called Gaussian surface. And what is Gaussian surface? It is an imaginary surface around a charge. It is imaginary surface around a charge. And what type of surface? Closed surface. At every point of which the value of electric field is constant. At every point of which electric field value is constant. Suppose at this point electric field is E, this point electric field is E, this point electric field is E. Means electric field at every point of the Gaussian surface is always constant and it should be symmetric. Gaussian surface should be symmetric. Now this time it is a sphere. This time it is a sphere, and sphere is a closed surface. Let us assume some sphere. It is closed from all sides. Okay. Now step number 1. Electric field intensity due to plus Q charge at any point of the Gaussian surface. At any point on the Gaussian surface. And we know the formula, electric field due to point charge is Q divided by 4 pi epsilon naught R square. So we use this formula here. Here Q is plus Q. So we write plus Q divided by R square, and R unit vector here R cap, which is along radially outward. Radially outward. Why radially outward? Because charge is positive and electric field of plus charge is always radially outward. Now next step, let us assume small area element ds here. Let us assume small area element ds here, which is whose area vector is ds vector. You know ds vector is always normal to the ds. It is always normal to the ds. Now the electric flux through this area element is small area element. So small electric flux, that is E dot ds vector. Now substitute the value of E vector here and convert ds vector equal to magnitude ds, and n cap, that is unit vector, is perpendicular to the surface. Perpendicular to the surface. Now the result is 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught q ds over r square and r cap dot n cap. Now you know a dot b vector can be written as a b cos theta. Magnitude of a vector, magnitude of b vector. Now we convert r dot n vector as magnitude of r cap, magnitude of n cap, and cos. You know these two vectors r cap and n cap are in the same direction, so theta is 0 degree. So magnitude of unit vector 1, magnitude of unit vector 1, cos 0 is 1, so answer will be 1. So we write here 1. The result will be d phi equal to 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught q ds divided by r square. Now step number 3, we have to calculate the electric flux through the entire Gaussian surface. Now it can be written as phi equal to closed integration of d phi. Now substitute the value of d phi. Constant terms, that is 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught. Charge and radius of this sphere is constant, can be taken out from the integration, and the area, surface area of the sphere is 4 pi r square. So we write closed integration of ds, that is surface area. It is called surface area of the sphere, which is 4 pi r square. 4 pi cancels out with 4 pi. R square cancels out with R square. So answer is phi equal to Q over epsilon naught, which is Gauss theorem. Okay. Now special cases. You see, if Q is 0, suppose we have a sphere and charge is 0 here. So what will be Gauss theorem? Phi equal to 0 divided by epsilon naught, and total flux through the entire surface is 0. It means if Gaussian surface, if closed surface does not enclose any charge, then flux through that surface will be 0. Very important point. And if the closed surface has two equal charges but of opposite sign, suppose we have a closed surface and one is plus q charge, another is minus q charge. So total charge here is 0. Plus q minus q equal and opposite. So in this case the electric flux is also 0. And if closed surface contains discrete distribution, suppose we have q1 charge, q2, q3 up to so on, then we write it as q1, q2 plus q3 plus qn, that is we add total charges because charge is a scalar quantity. So we can add simply q1 plus q2 plus q3, and we write electric flux as 1 over epsilon naught and total charge. Now electric flux through a closed surface depends upon the net charge. Obviously it only depends upon the charge enclosed by the surface, but it does not depend upon the size of the closed surface. Suppose we have a cube, small cube here, whose edge is maybe 1 centimeter. Okay, and charge is q here, and we have a big cube, let us say, whose one edge is 3 centimeter. Then electric flux will be here q over epsilon naught, and also here q over epsilon naught. Only depends upon charge enclosed by the surface and does not depend upon the size of the surface. Now some questions, very important question, is Gauss law true always? Yes, it is true always. It is always true. Gauss law is applicable for any distribution of charges within a closed surface, but it is helpful. It is valid to every situation, but it is helpful. It is only helpful for symmetrical surfaces because symmetrical Gaussian surface is easy and convenient choice. Symmetric surface, suppose sphere or cylinder. These are symmetric surface because in these cases integration is very easy to solve and the symmetries are very easy to, and symmetries here are very easy to understand. So that's why it is applicable for any distribution, any shape, but it is helpful for symmetric Gaussian surface. Okay. Now, is Gauss theorem valid only for stationary charges? No, it is valid for stationary as well as rapidly moving charges. Suppose if it is inside the closed surface, if charges are moving here to here, here to here, then it is applicable here. And what is exciting about Gauss theorem? What is wondering thing about Gauss theorem? The wondering thing about Gauss theorem is, what is Gauss theorem? It is the closed integration of E dot ds equal to q over epsilon naught, which is called as phi. Okay. So left hand side, this E vector is very exciting. Suppose we have a closed surface and we have charge q1 here, q2 outside, and q3 is outside. Now this electric field E vector is the electric field due to all the charges, whether inside, whether outside. It is due to all the electric charges. But the charge in the right hand side of the Gauss theorem is only and only the charge which is inside the Gaussian surface, which is enclosed by this closed surface. You see here in the above equation, the electric field intensity E vector in the left hand side is due to all charges inside and outside the Gaussian surface. But the charge Q in the right hand side is the algebraic sum of charges enclosed by the Gaussian surface, only enclosed by the Gaussian surface. Now what is the Gaussian law for any medium? For medium it is Q over epsilon naught and epsilon r. Q over epsilon naught and epsilon r, where ER, epsilon r is the relative permittivity of the medium. And state the conditions under which electric flux is zero. Now one case is that if charge Q is zero inside the closed sphere, means if no charge is enclosed by the closed surface, then electric flux will be zero. That is, if closed surfaces encloses no charge, electric surface is zero. If any dipole is enclosed by the closed surface, suppose we have a closed surface and we have dipole here minus q plus q separated by some distance. Now net charge of the dipole is always zero. So it means if any dipole is enclosed by the closed surface, the electric flux will be zero. And when the positive and negative charges are of equal value are enclosed by the Gaussian surface. Suppose we have a closed surface and we have charges plus 3 microcoulomb, minus 3 microcoulomb, plus 2 microcoulomb, minus 2 microcoulomb. Now total charge is 0, means opposite and equal charges are present in the closed surface, then electric flux is always 0. Now if charge is enclosed by a hemisphere, let us say hemisphere here, okay, the electric flux through the hemisphere is pi r square into E. Now this is circle, this part is circle here, okay. If radius is r, what will be the area of this circle? It is pi r square. Now what will be the flux? It is ES, and E and area is pi r square. So if charge is enclosed by hemisphere, then the flux is pi r square into E. We take this part because in this part electric field vector and the area vector will be parallel to each other, will be in the same direction. We take on the flux from here. Now if a charge is enclosed by a square, suppose we have a square, charge is enclosed by a square, then the flux through this square will be very simple, Q over epsilon naught, because flux only depends upon charge enclosed by the surface. If charge enclosed by the square, then electric flux through each surface of the square. Now how many surfaces of the square are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it is asking about electric flux through each surface. Now you know electric flux, total electric flux is Q over epsilon naught, and through each surface it will be Q over 4 epsilon naught, because square has 4 surfaces. Now if a charge is enclosed by a cube, let us suppose if charge is enclosed by a cube, okay, let us say charge is here, then the electric flux will be, obviously it is Q over epsilon naught, and the electric flux through each face. Now each face, how many faces of the cube are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, front 5, back 6. 6 surfaces, and through each surface it is divided into 6 parts, that is Q over 6 epsilon naught, okay. Now if a charge is lying at the corner of the cube, now let us suppose we have a cube and charge is lying at the corner of the cube, then electric flux through the cube is Q divided by 8 epsilon naught. Now see 8 epsilon naught. See how? Now if charge is present at the corner, then we see this corner charge, this charge which is present at the corner, if we draw Gaussian surface in the form of cube around this charge, because here space is empty, here space is empty, here space is empty, above this surface is empty. So electric field lines will pass through which surface? Only front. Back is empty, this side is empty, this side is empty. So we have to draw Gaussian surface in order to calculate the electric flux. Now when we draw Gaussian surface in the form of cube, we see this corner charge is surrounded by 8 cubes. Surrounded by 8 cubes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It means this charge has been divided into 8 cubes, and each cube will share q by 8 charge. Okay. Then what will be the electric flux through this cube? If charge is shared by each cube is q by 8, then what will be the electric flux through this cube, which is given? Only one cube we are given with. So electric flux will be q by 8 epsilon naught. Okay, is that clear? Now, flux through each face of the cube. Now, here flux through the cube, which is q by 8 epsilon naught. Now, flux through the each face of the cube. Now, you see each face. You know, we have 6 faces of the cube, and if charge is present at the corner, if charge is enclosed by the surface, if charge is present here, as previous we have discussed, that is charge is enclosed by a cube, the total electric flux will be q by epsilon naught, and through each face it is q by 6 epsilon naught. But now charge is not enclosed by the cube, charge is present at the corner of the cube. Now we have 6 faces of the cube, and only electric field lines will perpendicularly pass through only 3 faces. Let us say this left face, that is front face, and bottom face. Electric field lines passes perpendicularly only through these surfaces. So the electric flux through each surface when charge is present at the corner, it will be 1 by 3, because 3 surfaces electric field lines are passing normally, and through each surface it will be 1 by 3. So answer will be q divided by 24 epsilon naught. Is that clear? Now next question. If a balloon of radius 20 cm has inward flux of this, what will be the flux of radius of balloon is doubled? Means if balloon is doubled in size, then what will be the electric flux? You know, we already know that electric flux only depends upon charge enclosed by the closed surface. It does not depend upon the size of the Gaussian surface. So therefore net flux will not change. It will remain minus 2.0 into 10 raised to power 3 Newton Coulomb inverse meter square. Now let's see further deduction of Coulomb's law from Gauss theorem. You know, we can derive Coulomb's law from Gauss theorem, and we can also derive Gauss theorem from the Coulomb's law. So let us derive Coulomb's law from the Gauss theorem. So for that, let us suppose we have two charges q1, q2. Let the distance between two charges is r. Now take q1 as center and r distance between two charges as radius. Draw a sphere around the q1 charge, and we consider this sphere as Gaussian surface. So now we are deriving Coulomb's law from Gauss theorem. So let us start from Gauss theorem. So according to Gauss theorem, total electric flux through the closed surface is charge divided by epsilon naught. And here q1 is enclosed by the surface, q2 is on the surface of the surface. Okay, it is present on the surface of the Gaussian sphere, but charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface is q1. So it is q1 divided by epsilon naught. Now E vector and ds vector are in the same direction, so theta equal to 0 degree. So cos 0 will be 1, and the answer is E ds equal to q1 over epsilon naught. Now we know on the Gaussian surface electric field at every point is constant. So E can be taken out from the integration. So it is E integration of ds, and integration of ds, closed integration of ds is surface area of the sphere, which is 4 pi r square. So E into 4 pi r square equal to q1 over epsilon naught, and E is 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught q1 over r square. So this is the electric field of q1 on q2. Means q2 is experiencing electric field of q1. So it means force experienced by q2, electrostatic force experienced by q2 is F equal to q2 into E. Okay. Force experienced by q2 in the electric field of q1 is q2 into E. substitute the value of E here and we get the result F equal to 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 over R square, which is Coulomb's law. So now, do Coulomb's law and Gauss law complement to each other? Yes, because Coulomb law can be derived from Gauss law and Gauss law can be derived from Coulomb's law. So both are complement to each other. Now next is, if the electrostatic force varies inversely as the cube of the distance, means if electrostatic force, Coulomb force is like this, means it is inversely as cube of the distance, then will Gauss theorem hold good? No. Gauss theorem hold good only when electric force varies as inverse of the distance, inverse square law. If it obeys inverse square law, only then Gauss law will hold good. So this was about today's lecture. Thank you very much. If you want PDF notes, you can tell me in comment section or you can follow me on my Telegram channel. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Stay happy, stay healthy.